You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold, episode 28. Today we welcome in a very special guest out of Atlanta, personal injury attorney Ali Awad. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. My name is Ali Awad, and I help injured people make a wad of money.
Wad of money, that's right. So, man, thanks for coming on today. You are like a pillar of like the Instagram lawyer community. So like, we're super excited to have you and like, thanks for your time, man.
Hey man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, when you grow up around technology, millennials, like we're going to be on Instagram,
Well, you did have a tech business that we're going to get to in a minute. Like,
let's get into all of it, man. I'm excited.
Right on. So you're an original, man. Like you were super kind. There are like a few people out there who, even though they had big followings and you do have like a very nice community that follows you, like, I started Lawyer Stories in July 2017. Less than a year later, May 2018, we featured you. So it's been over like 2 years. You submitted our story to like your story to like our growing community. So I really appreciate that. And you really opened up in your story. You have like a extraordinary story that I really want to dive into before we get to like how successful your firm is and like what you're doing. So thanks again, man.
Let's go. I'm excited. I told you I want some good deep questions because most people just focus on the marketing and the money, and there's just so much more to it, man. There really is.
There is. And so like, me as an attorney, I'm licensed in 3 states. I feel that attorneys are sociologists at heart, and there's always like a story to a lot of different attorneys, and like you have one of those extraordinary, like I said, stories. So to start off, so your folks, they moved from Palestine to Georgia with 5 other kids, right? Like, so I'm number 3. Born at the time. So 6 kids to Atlanta. Like, I mean, not Atlanta, but outside Atlanta in Georgia.
Right.
So like, what was that like growing up there and like outskirts of Atlanta in Georgia? Like, what was that like?
So,
Dalton.
Georgia's pretty big. Georgia's pretty big. We first moved. So I was born in Carrollton, which is outside of Atlanta. My dad ended up moving to Georgia because it's the carpet capital of the world. He's an engineer. So we ended up relocating to Dalton because that was the only place that was looking for, engineers that can handle all of the flooring and the carpet. So Dalton is a very rich, diverse city. There's only about 100,000 in the total population of Metro Dalton. But you've got so many different cultures there. And it's kind of surprising because you would think that, hey, you're in the Bible Belt. You've just got a super conservative sort of, old white mentality in Dalton. But that's kind of like the old school Dalton. What happened was, I'll give you a little history on Dalton, right?
Yeah.
We're known for 2 things. Dalton is known for its carpet, number 1, and its meth, number 2.
Meth, okay.
So it's also known as Ice City. A lot of drugs. Like in the 90s, was a very, very dangerous place to live.
Right.
So
because you said in your story that like when you would go to the mosque on the weekends, like you would hear gunshots.
Yeah.
Like, you would legit hear. Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about growing up in Dalton in the early 90s, right? So my dad was a super hardcore, like, you got to speak Arabic at home. If you don't speak Arabic, you don't hold on to your culture. I'm literally going to hit you until you fix it. So there was no such thing as just getting grounded, right? That was such an American thing for me. Like, oh, my friends are getting grounded. No, dude, we get put in the ground, like we get our asses beat. It's just how it is,
Yep.
So we had a very strict routine. You'd wake up in the morning around 5 or 6 a.m. to go to the mosque for the early morning prayer. When you go to the mosque, we're one of maybe 6 or 7 people that go to the mosque every single day, literally religiously.
Wow.
So in Dalton, Georgia, but from the age of like 5 to maybe like 15, I missed a total of maybe 3 prayers, morning prayers at that mosque. So I'm talking about
there's like 3 prayers a day that you usually do in like the morning.
So there's 5 prayers a day, but during the day you're in school, so it's hard to leave. But we go to the mosque in the morning right after we pray. And by the way, because we were the only ones that were at the mosque, there's only like 5 or 10 people. It's a small community. I got to practice leading prayer, and so even like I always keep a Quran with me like everywhere that I am because people would be surprised to think that I can actually read this. And understand it. So that's one of the rarest things. And I never talk about it, but one of the rarest things is that someone that lived and grew up in the US that speaks Arabic fluently. And that's all because of my dad. He made sure that we would speak Arabic all the time at home. We'd study the Quran. We'd read letter by letter, word by word. So because I grew up speaking Arabic at home and the huge Mexican population that existed in Dalton, because of all the carpet mills, they needed Mexican labor. That was the cheapest labor to get.
Right.
My friends were Mexican. My school obviously was in English, and I was speaking Arabic at home. So I grew up perfectly trilingual. And,
right.
And it was just normal.
And your parents moved there more for the carpet business than for the Arabic like culture, right?
No, there was very little, Arabs there. There was a small Egyptian population, but it's a little bit different than like the Palestinian kind of Levantine region that we came from.
Okay.
My dad just moved because he just needed a job. He just needed a place to work. That's it.
So he moved from Palestine because he needed a job.
Well, when you're Palestinian, you're kind of you have very little rights. And, if you study the region, you study the Middle East, you know that the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is something that's, it's just so deeply entrenched that Palestinians really have no rights. My mom is from Gaza. She was born in 1965.
Wow.
She's part of that 1967 Gaza war. She hasn't seen some of her family members in 20, 30 years.
Wow.
Some of them are still stuck in that 13-mile strip, the Gaza Strip. So we grew up realizing that it was a blessing to be in the US because we've got family overseas that literally can't escape, much less seek out opportunities.
So how'd you get over there then? Like, how did you
didn't go over there? I haven't been to Palestine.
No. How'd you get from like Palestine to US?
Well, I didn't go. My mom did. So I don't, she escaped. I was born here, so I got lucky.
Escaped. Okay.
Yeah. She literally escaped. And my dad actually came on a student visa.
Okay.
So my dad lived in, I think he lived in the Emirates, and he was basically a refugee. He was first in the refugee camps in Lebanon as a Palestinian refugee living in Lebanon, moved to the Emirates because there's a big, diaspora of Palestinians and Syrians there. And then ended up getting a student visa after he graduated to come to the US. So what really brought my dad to Georgia was Georgia Tech, because he wanted to be an engineer. Georgia Tech had one of the best programs. He came here and then decided, all right, let me take it from there.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So that's amazing. So let's move forward a little bit. Like you had, so at age 8, right? Like you said in your story that a propane tank like fell on your foot.
Yeah.
And your foot like swelled up. So we're moving forward, like from where you just, told me your parents weren't, we moved over to the US, and then like at age 8, like, you're living your life, and then you had an accident, like, and then your foot swelled up. So like,
let me kind of clarify this a little bit, because
please.
I didn't really have a childhood growing up.
Okay.
My childhood was work and training and studying.
Okay.
That was my childhood. And, when I compare it to literally everyone else that I know, everyone else had a childhood. We had one family vacation my entire life when I was a child.
What was that like?
We went to Disney World, and we had to stay at a Super 8 motel, and my dad had to go to all these, what do they call it? The timeshare sort of sales pitches.
Oh,
free tickets to Disney World. So all inclusive for 8 people, we were in like $2,000 with tickets, and we drove down there with a 1984 Econoline van. Yep. And that was the best vacation of my life, because we grew up really poor, man. And so that injury at age 8 was because I was helping my dad with a welding gig that he had. And so my brothers and I were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. We'd go with them every weekend to help with whatever job, whatever side gig we could get at the time.
Right.
So it wasn't, abnormal for us to come home and our eyes would literally be burning because we've been, welding all day because we could only afford one welding mask, that automatically dim when you're welding, right? So we learned how to do things like change tires and change oil and, replace brakes on cars and learn how to weld, do carpentry. I tiled a bathroom when I was like 8 years old. We just learned how to do that stuff at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, first workplace injury was when I was 8. I was just kind of horseplaying with my younger brother. We were running around a carpet factory because my dad rented out a little space inside a carpet factory to do his welding gig on the weekends with this dude named Ken Jones that was like one of his mentors and supporters. And I pushed the propane tank over, and this thing like toppled, started going back and forth, and all I could see is just boom, slam on my foot. And it was very heavy because I was like 55 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. And I remember my 3rd grade teacher, Mr. Kittle, was like, "Hey, what's going on? Why is Ali not coming to class today?" And my dad was like, his foot hurts. He's sick. Wow. He can't come. He couldn't tell them because it's like, there's some laws, I'm sure, about this. I don't know. I'm not an employment lawyer or child abuse lawyer or whatever.
Yeah.
Not child abuse. Okay. Maybe that's a little extreme. But you know what I mean? So that's just how we grew up, man. Like,
yeah. So you were just like always work. It was a very serious mindset. Like you were always working, always trying to do the best that you could for the family. Like that's how you were.
I'll tell you this. When I was in the 4th grade in Miss Asperger's class, I remember that she was passing around. We were looking at the textbook, and there was a picture of a landfill with a bunch of tires. And, Miss Asperger was talking about how, oh my goodness, no one would want to live next to that landfill. Like, this is why it's important to recycle and make sure that you put your trash in the appropriate places.
Right.
And I responded and I said, "I'd love to live next to that thing." And she's like, "What are you saying?" And I'm like, "Because it's really hard to find used tires for free. We usually pay $3 for used tires and sell them for $20. So if I can get these used tires for free, because I could see all these tires in the landfill, I'm sure I can scrap through them and find something to sell."
You know who you remind me of, like this kind of verbiage and like not verbiage, but like your stories and stuff is one of my favorite people to listen to, Gary V. I know, like the way that you're talking, like 8 years old, you want to live near tires so you could pedal the tires.
That was real. That's such a fond memory. And I also remember that same lady was telling us how, this one kid named Charles, Charles Finkley or something, I forgot his last name, but she straight up told us, because he was literally the only white kid in the class, that, and by the way, there was so much racism around me. I can't believe how oblivious I was to it. But she straight up told the class, "Hey, all of you guys are going to end up working for people like Charles," and was pointing at the Mexicans and me because I just looked more like a Mexican. She couldn't really figure out. I was just one of those, when you're on a Scantron and you're like, are you white? Are you Hawaiian or Alaskan Native or other?
She was just like, you guys, he has the right idea. Like, you're going to work for that guy because he wants to.
And guess what? I don't know if you cuss on your show. I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, no, you can. It's.
But that guy ended up being a crack addict and ended up failing out of school. And that was. I mean,
if I get any complaints for for us talking negatively about him, for disparaging comments, like, I'll send it over to you.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that.
I'm just kidding.
He's long gone by now. But look, man, that's how it is, man. So 8 years old, workplace injury. 9 years old, a tire blew up in my face when I'm working in my dad's mechanic shop. Around 10, I started my first eBay store first sale I ever made.
So before you start with the eBay store, I just want to preface everything by saying, dude, in the story, like, you talked about like all your businesses. It's incredible. Like, and so I just want to kind of do like a little introduction to that. Like, you had mechanical, like you worked on cars, like buying and selling electronics. You had a store at the mall. So like, that was sort of my next segue. So I wanted to stop you and like, I wanted to hear everything about like your businesses, really.
So look, I really credit a lot of my current success to my retail experience and my like mechanic shop experience when I was really young. And I'm talking about before I became a teenager. So from age 9 to about 19. So for those 10 years, I would say I mounted, balanced, and installed personally with my bare hands over 10,000 sets of tires.
Wow.
I like what people usually do in a career. I did it before I went to college. And because we just worked in a used tire shop. And my dad was the kind of guy that the reason we opened up a mechanic shop was because our 1987 Dodge Caravan had the transmission go out in it. And he took it to this mechanic shop and they charged him $1,500 to replace the transmission or just to fix it. 3 months later, it goes out again. He's another $1,500. And that's a monumental amount of money at that time.
Yeah.
So he said, screw that. I'm going to open up my own mechanic shop. I can figure this out. I've got 4 boys, I've got free labor, you know? And so, yeah, man, like I grew up like waiting for people to get nails in their tires so that I can do a plug on their tire. Cause that's just what I was good at. The wheel and tire business. But to kind of like give a little bit of preface to this, the business that we formed, my brothers and I, was called Joker's Audio.
Okay.
So in around middle school, I started taking the electronics thing a little bit seriously because we were just kind of trying to move away from the mechanic shop. It was just too dirty. Every day I'd come home, my clothes were dirty. I'd have freaking like dirt from the tires and brakes. Like I couldn't get it off. We were like distributors of that Gojo soap, like the big soap that has sand in it so that you can get all the grime off your hands.
Yep.
I mean, that's not a normal childhood. So my dad was like, all right, let's try this electronics thing. And we started a company called Joker's Audio. We started with a $2,000 investment from my dad.
Okay.
He decided we took $2,000, went to this place called MS Electronics in Atlanta. I don't know if they're still open. The guy was a wholesaler and he ripped us off the first transaction because we didn't know any better. But that was our first step in saying, look, we want to start doing car audio. And so I learned how to do, install radios, TVs, speakers, amplifiers. And it developed and evolved to the point where in about 7 years' time, my brothers and I bought our own car audio manufacturing company in China.
And how old were you around this time?
16.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was comfortable doing $100,000 deals when I was 16, 17.
Really?
Like the first time I ever went to Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Showcase, the CES show, was when I was either 16 or 15. And
so what inside of you made you so confident to deal with hundreds of thousands of dollars at 16?
Well, the thing was, for me, it was just fun because I never really saw the money. I didn't touch it in my hands and keep it and put it in my pocket or in my bank account. It was me just realizing, okay, I can buy this item here, sell it here, make this profit, and the money can just keep flowing. So my dad managed all the money. I was just the salesman, and my specialty was online sales.
Right.
I was discovering all these different websites. There was this website called Ubid where I would go and buy these Kicker L7 subwoofers, and these wholesale cost was like $250, and I was getting them for as low as $74. And in Dalton, surprisingly, that little bitty town, there's 10 car audio shops. Everyone is trying to get their hands on these Kicker L7 subs. Right. And this little middle school kid is buying them left and right for like $100 a pop.
Yeah, that's
I was selling them in the retail stores, selling them online. And that's just kind of how I, became an online salesperson.
But so when you're starting to deal with all this money and you're 16 and you're at these shows, why did you eventually say, I'm going to go back to college? I'm going to get my JD, my MBA, my undergrad. Why?
So I'll give you the short answer.
Yeah.
I wanted a respectable career.
Okay.
I didn't just want to be
So what made you think that wasn't a respectable, and this is no hit on anybody here. This is no disparaging, no slander. So you just didn't think, oh, we're taking a drink. Okay.
It's culture, bro. It's culture. My culture, and in the Middle Eastern family, you got, there's 3 career choices: doctor, lawyer, or failure. Pick one.
Right.
So no, I mean, there's more than that. There's engineer.
So something hit you and you were like, all right, well, because some people think look, because I know people who after college, they go sell Lexuses for a little while and they're like, all right, shit, I'm making a little dough. But then they're like, I also think I can go to law school and be a counselor, be an attorney.
So like you must have had that moment where you were like, and this is what I do ask a lot of people on the show.
Okay.
Like you must have had that moment because, and this is really intriguing to me because you were already making and handling a lot of money, even though you said it went elsewhere and it's not like it was you were throwing it in your pocket, but you were like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to do this. So tell me like when that all sort of came about.
Cool. So that's a great question, man. I'm glad you asked it.
Yeah.
When I was working in Joker's Audio and in the car audio and wheel shops and selling electronics online, the problem with that business was that it was me that had to do most of the work. Like I could have installers that I could delegate, but no one could sell as well as I could. And no one knew all the entire wheel industry like I could, like I did. I mean, there was this book called The Red Book. Now it's huge, but in 2010, 2011, I memorized every single bolt pattern of every single vehicle that existed. Because when a client would walk in with a 1999 Lexus, IS 300 or whatever it is, I can look at it and be like, yo, you got a 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern. The max tire size you can put on a 20 inches, a 225, 30,
so
20.
You were already an expert in something. You were already an expert, right?
But here's the thing. I really felt, and I hope that anyone who's listening to this will appreciate where I'm coming from on this, because if you feel the same way, I really, really encourage you to take that leap of faith. I felt like I reached the capacity or the closest point to max capacity in that business. And I just thought deep down, I could do so much better. I knew that I had so much more potential. I didn't want to be a car audio and wheel salesman. Not that there's anything wrong with that. My brother still does it, and he makes more money than I do. But I wasn't.
I don't know. I've seen some of your posts lately, man. Like that's.
No, I'm serious. I know. Trust me. I know my brother.
What's that?
I mean, I know my brother. Yeah, I know what he's. And here's the thing. For how my brain worked and for how easy it was for me to get to school. And I'm not saying this to be braggadocious, man. I was just good at school. Like I had a 4.0 in college, and I went to school like part-time. Like I took 18 credit hours, but I was just going, I'll go to class, take some notes, take the exam, and leave.
But like you went to school, even though you had this other skill, you were like, I still need to get that degree. So nobody really put that in your mind. Like you have to get it. You just said I could be so much more. So, and this is how I think achieving so much more looks like. So I'm going to do this.
I really knew that I had to do something more. And I knew that I wanted to get like a business degree. But my brother, like I said, is one of my older brother is 3 years older than me, and he's already an attorney. So I got to watch him go through law school, but he was always like just digging himself in these books and like all about criminal defense and, doing criminal law. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to court. I just want to get paid, bro.
Right. So that's actually like I have like a personal question about that. Like you're saying, I don't want to go to court. Like, so, and you have like an amazing PI firm. So like, you're obviously like, you're not going to court, or you have people going to court, but you settle like 95% of the cases. We're going to get into your firm in like a minute, but.
Yeah, that's how it should be. But no, I watched my brother. I saw that he went to law school, and I just asked him, I was like, man, like, do you think I should go to law school? And he's like, yeah, man, there's so many things you can do with it. I'm like, I don't want to go to court all the time. He's like, no, man, there are so many businesses and so many industries that could benefit from a law degree. And he said, they teach you how to think, like how to analyze.
Ali, so like, why didn't you want to go to court? I'm curious about that.
Because
a lot of people, like I do talk
my
to
real
people,
answer?
like, I love being in the courtroom. I live in the courtroom.
You want my real answer? Yeah,
what's that?
My real answer is that for my skill set and for my abilities, I can impact way more people outside of the courtroom than inside the courtroom. My place, I think, in this world isn't inside the courtroom. My place is impacting people on a global scale.
But why don't, if you have so you obviously get a lot of settlements, like 95% of personal injury cases settle. I don't know, you could tell me the percentage better than I know, but you do have something that goes to trial. Like, what do? Do you have people that go to the trial for you, or what?
So I've litigated cases. I've gone to court.
Okay.
And I've done it. It's not like I did it and realized that the time investment that it took to get to that point was not worth my time. And my ability to impact so many more people Yeah, would be much better spent if I was maximizing case values and just trying to reach more people through my marketing.
So you're like, so it's like sales, like you're into sort of like sales and talking to people and being like sort of, you make good personal connection. Like is that sort of what you're saying a little bit?
Yeah, I would say, law is the ultimate sale because I have to sell to 12 people on a jury and not just one person.
Right.
I mean, I could sell shit to a toilet, bro. Like you want me to sell something, I can sell something. I have the ability to persuade. But I would here, let me back up a little bit. I mean, I gotta flesh this out because we're throwing so many topics here and it's hard to keep track.
I know. I want
to let me flesh this out real quick because this is very important. There's different levels of salespeople. And you have to understand generationally how these salespeople sort of evolved. Salesmen in the 70s, 80s, and 90s had to force sell. They had to push you and kind of manipulate you and talk really, really fast to get you to buy. That was the strategy, and that's kind of how they kind of forced you into buying. Then it sort of started evolving where they really want to get to know the customer. They're talking about building the rapport with the other person. All they did was just build the rapport just to get to know enough information about the other person so they can go in for the kill.
Right.
And there's different types of people. Some people are all business. They want to come in, sell me this thing. I want to be in and out. Some people really want to feel good. They want to go through that sales process like, man, I just want to feel like $1 million. Well, I got you. I can make you feel like €1 million, baby. Come on. But then I really think the next level of sales is education. And throughout all of the businesses, because I operated 7 different companies before I became an attorney. Mm-hmm. We only talked about one of them. Before I became an attorney, I realized that my ultimate skill was selling through educating. That was the thing that clicked in my mind. Like, I can sell by educating. And I absolutely loved it because anytime I met someone and I wanted to sell you something, I didn't actually have to sell you something. I would just educate you and I would show you just by the sheer amount of knowledge that I have here and by how much I can help you before you even become my customer, before you become my client, you're going to want to shop with me. And that's really the gist of my philosophy is I sell through educating. And if you notice in my videos, I'm not always telling people, hey, call me, I'll fight for maximum compensation. I'll do this.
Right.
No, it's like, hey, here's why you need liability coverage. Here's why you need uninsured motorists. And I educate people with my videos. And that's evolved into becoming almost a powerhouse in acquiring personal injury clients. And that's kind of where we are today.
So like, how did you decide to practice personal injury?
So I was going to these personal injury lawyer seminars, and there was this, I'm not going to mention his name because he really is a pillar in the community, but there was this little black guy that, and any personal injury lawyer in Atlanta that's going to hear this, they're going to know who I'm talking about. There's this little black guy with a big smile and an afro at the time. He was explaining a case that he had just finished. And we're in this personal injury seminar, and I'm a broke law student, right? I'm going in there because they're giving free Chick-fil-A biscuits.
Nice.
And he's talking about his case and how he was like, had to overcome all these obstacles at trial, and how he was communicating with the jury and all these voir dire and the motions limine and all this stuff that he went through. And then at the very end, after he described everything, someone raised their hand in the back and said, hey, so what was the verdict? And he was smiling, kind of humbly. He was like, 7 million. I was like, I'm pretty good at math. 40%, that's $2.8 million. You made $2.8 million in one case? And he's like, yeah. But honestly, it was a bad venue. We had a very similar case just like that a few months ago, and we got it resolved for 20 million. Like, this guy made like $10 million in attorney's fees in just a couple of months. Like, that's more than my entire family is worth. Like, all of us, yeah. You get all the Awads from every corner of the world, a lot of people. We're not even worth anywhere near that much. And this guy did it in 2 cases in 2 months. At that point, I was like, all right, personal injury is probably worth my time and I should look into it.
Okay.
Because I really feel like in the beginning, I was focused on the money, but, and the money is what attracted me to personal injury. but the impact is what kept me.
Okay.
Because I cannot believe that now most of the emails that I respond to when I'm talking to clients is about trying to put more money in their pockets, whether it's lowering my attorney's fee or, negotiating more with a medical provider or trying to get some fees and expenses waived. I'm always focusing on trying to add just a little bit more value to clients. And that's what's gotten me addicted. Like in the beginning, it's okay to be focused on money, but you really have to get to a point where you're addicted to helping people.
Okay.
And I feel like I've gotten to that point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's great. And like, so how do we sort of like connect everything? I know we jumped sort of ahead to like why you wanted to go into personal injury, but like we were talking a lot about like, we only talked about one out of your like 8 businesses, but like, how do we sort of reconcile everything in terms of like when you became a PI attorney and like, so you did it. So because you obviously saw, this guy at this conference and you were like, that's for me. But was this something you thought of when you injured your foot at 8 years old? Was it something you thought, did that hit your mind at all? Or like,
no, what did hit my mind though, was I had 3 cousins that were, pretty catastrophically injured. And, I grew up close to my cousins. So, they broke their legs and their feet, like their pelvis, and like they had, pretty serious surgeries, and they didn't hire an attorney, and they ended up really, really getting screwed over on their case. And they live with titanium rods and metal in their bodies since they were teenagers. And ever since then, I was like, there's a problem in the immigrant mentality when they come to the US, that they feel like because they didn't need a lawyer back home, they don't need a lawyer here.
right.
And so I've been really working on educating, immigrant and foreign populations. And just because I have these language skills, I'm realizing that there's a lot of biases that we need to overcome and a lot of cultural issues that we need to kind of get rid of.
Yeah.
Because, that mindset of, oh, I don't need a lawyer because, we didn't need one back home, or, I'm fine. I'll go back to work the next day. You need a lawyer. You need to understand what your rights are. And I've felt like growing up, I was always scared, and my parents were, always worried because my parents weren't legal, and they didn't have, legal status. Yeah. My dad didn't get a citizenship till 2017. So all this stuff was happening while my parents were always scared of the police, and they were scared of sirens every time they go off while we're driving. And I wanted to do something that could empower my family and be respected. And I wasn't getting that in a mechanic shop. And
right.
So, and I just thought, for someone that's good in school and good at reading and good at writing and that can do sales, I got to figure out a way to apply all these skills into one thing. And it just so happened that I landed on personal injury, even though I tried immigration law, I tried real estate, I tried business law.
Really?
I tried
what happened with like real estate?
I still have my real estate license from 2016.
Oh, you mean like just selling real estate?
No. It's just real estate transactions. I worked for a small real estate firm. I just didn't like it. It was boring, man.
Yeah,
it was just boring.
Yeah, but you're helping people with personal injury. They come to you and they're like, so like, if there was anything different that you could have done at the beginning, what would it have been?
Man, to be honest, I would have been nicer to people.
Really?
Yeah, because I still have an ego problem, and I'm working on that.
Really? How so? Ali, really? I don't detect that. Yeah.
It's obvious. No, I definitely have an ego problem, and I definitely feel like I wasn't nice or as nice as I could have been to people because I was just arrogant.
Were you nervous about what you were doing?
Oh no, I was so confident. There's 2 levels of confidence.
Super confident.
People that have the utmost confidence either know everything or know nothing. I was more on the know nothing side. Like, I thought that I knew everything, but I really didn't. And so by exposing myself to people that were doing things on a much, much bigger level, it humbled me and it allowed me to kind of open up my mind and realize, man, you haven't done shit yet. Like, you are still like, you're less than dirt. Like, here's the dirt and you're right underneath it. That's kind of, if I would have just been more humble and open-minded earlier on, I would be a billionaire right now. I wouldn't be struggling to make 10 or 20 million. I would definitely be a billionaire, because the way my mind works is the moment I see something, I can almost grasp all the information like a sponge. I have this like photographic memory. And when I find something that I like,
really have a photographic memory. Okay.
Yeah, that's something that I realized when I was, very young, is I can look at a set of numbers, or, read a book, or even watch a movie, and I can regurgitate the information almost verbatim. And so if I would have used that kind of like talent in allowing myself to, be exposed to people that could teach me more and kind of mentor me more, instead of thinking, oh, I just knew everything.
And
I think
you
I'm
never
in a much different place now.
But you hit on something that I'm really actually interested in with attorneys. So like, you didn't really have a legal mentor. I mean, you said your brother was an attorney, but like, you didn't have somebody like saying, hey, this is how you process a personal injury case, right?
No, I didn't, man. I didn't.
So how did you figure that out?
So I applied all of my business knowledge to personal injury.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, what about the depositions and the interrogatories and like all that stuff? Like, did you have somebody showing you how to do that sort of thing when you started?
So I worked for a year and a half for a small firm right out of law school.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't open my firm right out of law school. And so whoever's listening to this and wants to become an entrepreneur and wants to have their own firm, I don't recommend starting your own firm right off the bat.
Right.
I highly recommend getting experience and working with a small firm, not a huge firm, a small firm, if you really want the experience to become an entrepreneur. Because I learned more about what not to do and how not to run a firm than I did from actually how to run a firm. That was the biggest takeaway. Was there's people that have so much potential, they have so many great cases, they can make so much money, but they just drop the ball. They don't respect their clients. They don't return the calls in a timely manner. They're not responding to the emails. They're not aggressive. They're not like pounding the roads every single day trying to market and advertise themselves. And when I worked at a small firm for a year and a half, I realized that like if this guy could, have a decently successful firm with very little effort, I know that with my monumental amount of effort, I'm going to blow a lot of people out of the water. And so that's what I did.
That's amazing. So like, what would you have for, do you have any advice for somebody who might have already owned a firm for several years and they're trying like old sort of marketing measures, and like they need to try to figure out how to market themselves in today's society, like to get clients? What would your advice be?
Sure. So in 2018, it was my first full year of business. I had no website. For the most part, I had no office. I had one paralegal throughout the entire year. And I just had some business cards. I was still, sharing a house with a roommate. And with just social media, I made $3.2 million. No website, no fancy office, none of that. It was just creating video content, boosting it and blasting it to my friends and friends of their friends. And
social media is important. And that was my next question, actually.
Right. I think that if you're a good salesman and you have the ability to persuade, and especially if you have a charismatic character, you can duplicate that with social media. You literally grab your phone and shoot a video, 60 seconds, share it, post it, and then just tag certain people, tag certain brands, engage in the comments, and then boost that post to your followers and to friends of your followers. If you do that for 1 year, you will be a millionaire. I can guarantee you. But most of the time, people are lazy. They don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to do video after video after video. I've done thousands of videos and I don't stop. I'm going to keep going because I've just started scratching the surface. That's the problem, man. That's the problem.
I love that. So basically, like the people who have been in the business for a while, they need to really follow that model. Like they need to get in tune with social media. They need to post Instagram photos. I mean, TikTok's like a new thing, but they need to really like get involved. So like you have this amazing following on Instagram. So like that just happened like overnight. Like is that basically by the repeated method of posting videos? I mean, like how like.
All right, I'm going to give you some gold today since you asked that question. No, it didn't just happen by accident. It didn't just happen.
No, I didn't mean accident, but like you just said, like you keep posting videos.
It didn't happen by just doing videos and posting.
Okay.
It didn't happen just like that. Perception begets reality.
Yep.
The perception of success is success. No matter how brilliant you are and no matter how valuable the information is, people have an automatic bias when they come to your page that if you don't have at least a certain amount of followers, they're not going to listen to you. And for me, I think that number is 10K. Once you hit the 10K limit, once you hit 10,000 followers, people are going to start reacting to your page a little bit differently, because the very first thing, and like, this just shows you how like fickle our society is.
Fickle.
The moment you go on Instagram, you type in someone's name, the thing that's right dead in the center, exactly where your attention goes, is the follower count.
It's crazy. I know.
And so I'm going to tell you exactly what I did. I started my page. Actually, my page wasn't called CEO Lawyer when I started. It was called Power Moves. Okay. And I wanted to just talk about how all these different things that you can do that are just power moves, because I was infatuated with seeing all these Instagram entrepreneurs making money. And I thought, oh, well, that's what I need to do. I just need to become an Instagram entrepreneur. But then, it was 2016. I was like, you know what? Let me see if the CEO Lawyer name is available.
Yeah.
2016, it's available. And I said, all right, cool. I'm going to start putting legal advice and business advice like I've been doing on Snapchat for the past 5 years.
Okay.
And so I went ahead, created that page. And what I did was I would share motivational quotes, business advice, and real estate investing tips. I would tag the most famous pages that did those things, and I would repost, tag, and I would follow all of the most popular accounts.
Okay.
I would engage with all of their, with all of their comments, all of their posts, comment back on people's stuff. And then I would unfollow those people like a week later and then follow them again. Because what happens was, at the time, Instagram, and I think it still does it.
Yeah.
Instagram, like it's got all these people that, automatically follow you if you're following a certain page. And so it attracts all of these people to your page. And now it's evolved to a point where people just buy their followers through shout outs, through paid promotions.
Yeah.
Well, paid promotions are the same exact thing. It's just a different level of quality. So if I did a paid promotion with Lawyer Stories, and you got, how many followers you got right now?
I don't know, 40K.
So you've got 40,000 followers. Probably the majority of those are lawyers. A paid promotion for me to do on your page is worth a lot of money, because I want to attract other lawyers to my page. Because the
all right, man. So you just get in touch with me after. We'll
but I'm telling you, what happens is most people find these like Russian pages that have, millions and millions of followers, say, hey, I'll pay you $100 to, boost my page or whatever to give me followers.
Right.
But if you engage and try to get high quality people in the beginning, you'll get quality back. So
well, let me just, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I'm going to give a little plug for Lawyer Stories. That's lawyer_stories on Instagram. Like, I take pride in like a lot of everybody that's been featured, man. Like I'd say 95%, because I do get, now that we've grown a little bit, like I do get contacted by legal marketers who want to see their attorneys featured, right? But 95% of the attorneys like I have engaged with, they've sent me messages, I've emailed with, I've said, this is how we can get you on Lawyer Stories. So this is what distinguishes Lawyer Stories from any other page that just copies and pastes like lawyers. Like we literally like talk to all the lawyers. So what we're doing is we're going to build the biggest lawyer connection like network that we can. I mean, and that's what we're sort of on track to doing. But yeah, no, I totally get that. That's great advice, man. Like we really appreciate you sharing that on the podcast.
No, of course, man. So that's how I started, because I realized I was putting out good content, but people weren't engaging. People just didn't care. And why would you care? I'm just a nobody. But when I give you that perception of success, you're gonna want to be involved. Yeah. And people love like watching you grow, and they love watching the progress. So,
but do they see? Let me ask you that: do they see you a lot during that process? Were you throwing yourself out there a lot, or was it just other content? Because I don't think I put myself out there enough on my page, and I'm going to start doing that more because people have asked, like, who operates like Lawyer Stories? Who's your team? Who's this? Who's that? But was it you, or was it other things?
So in the beginning, it was other things, and then I started slowly including myself. I think it's okay to follow an 80-20 rule. 80% of the stuff was just for, for the audience. That was just engagement bait, like stuff that I knew that they would want to watch and follow and engage with. It's motivational, inspiration, good stuff, right? But then I started kind of involving myself a little bit. And I even do that today. Like if you look at how I post right now, engagement is important because engagement makes money. Like I don't do social media just for fun. Right. I do it because it's impact.
No, it's amazing.
That's
the generation. I can't say it's my generation, but that's the generation. Like it's amazing. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I never thought I'd do something on Instagram like this.
Well, I mean, I think you're just scratching the surface, man. And I think that
I agree.
You're gonna find people that want to do collaborations, people that are going to want to continue working with you.
I agree.
And I would say just double down on what's working and still keep your mind open to trying new things.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Like it's okay to try different types of content. Like it's okay to, like take content from what other lawyers have tried that's worked really, really well. And, hey, this post came from this person, right? Instead of shouting out lawyers, why don't you repost some of the posts that they've done that have actually worked really well? Then you've become a source for valuable legal content instead of just the stories of lawyers.
Yeah. Well, we could look at that. I wrote that down. There are certain things that I want to stay away from because I see other accounts do that, and I'm really trying to stay true to my brand. But that's good advice. I wrote it down. I'm gonna think about that later. So it's amazing to talk to you about social media because you've been super successful with that. But I do want to roll back a little bit to to your firm. Like, how do you tell me a little bit more about it. Like, how many employees do you have, and how do you manage such a successful team?
So right now we have about 22 employees.
Oh my goodness. How many lawyers?
3 lawyers, including myself. And I pride myself on having about a 70% turnover rate with employees.
70%. Wait. 70% turnover rate?
Right.
Okay, let's hear that. Why?
Yeah. So, and turnover rate just means, how quickly people leave.
Right. So why?
And so just to put that into perspective, Costco has a very, very low turnover rate because, the reason people like working for Costco is because they take care of their employees, they give them benefits, and they pay them really well.
They also have free samples, right? Like you can go and eat.
Yeah. I don't know. Now with COVID, they won't let you do anything.
All right.
It's like every excuse in the world is COVID. It's because, oh man, the bathrooms are closed, COVID. Like, oh, I missed my flight. COVID, sorry, I couldn't turn in my paper. It's COVID. Anyway, so Walmart has an 85% turnover rate. Really? In my business, I realized that, and I think this applies to every business, your employees will make or break you. And I decided from the very beginning in late 2017 to hire my first paralegal. And I'll give you a story on that paralegal later. It's a great story. I started him off at $70K, which was more than I was making. I just knew that I needed a rock star paralegal that could settle some cases. Like, come on in here and get to work. And 6 months later, he made me my first $1 million. So I knew it was a great investment for me. But what I decided was with every new employee during the first 90 days, I am going to put you through the ringer. I'm going to put so much pressure on you to succeed. I want to know what you're capable of. And I want to know if you're willing to work like I do and like everyone else does. And so if you fail during the first 90 days, that's great. If you succeed during the first 90 days, that's great. Either way, my firm is going to continue going on the same path, and you're going to either, jump on board or jump off the ship. And so what I decided was when I hire new employees, I put them through a rigorous training and onboarding process during the first 90 days. I don't give any lack and any leeway in the beginning whatsoever. If you want to come and work for me, expect to work a lot, but also expect to get paid more than everyone else that is in your same experience and same industry level. Because my philosophy is I pay more so that I can expect more. If you're coming in here looking for 50, 60 grand a year, I'll give you 70. Just give me a reason to pay you 80. That's how I think of things.
Yeah.
And the way that's worked for me is because let's say you have an $80,000 a year employee, and during the first 3 months, that's a quarter of the year, you've spent $20,000 on that employee. If that employee can bring you one new client during that time, they've paid for their seat. Right. Apart from all of the other work that they've done for you those first 90 days. There are rock stars out there. They're not being appreciated. And the most beautiful thing about social media is that by putting out more content and people seeing the kind of person that I am and how I work, they're attracted to me and they want to come and work for me.
Right.
And so I put out more content related to hiring people and working and how to grow a firm. So we're like, 20 plus members right now because I want to attract those rock stars. I want everyone to make 6 figures minimum, full benefits package. I want people to have amazing vacations and have a lifestyle that I could only dream of because you deserve it. And I'm going to make you earn that shit when you work with me.
Right.
And so I also don't call them like my employees, between my own team. I call them my team members. I show them a lot of our finances and how our business operates. I'm very open and honest with how we work. And I tell them, look, I'm going to feed you to the wolves in the beginning. You're going to try to do this on your own. You're going to have one opportunity to get trained. I'm not going to repeat myself. So listen and take notes. And look, if you're stupid and you can't keep up, you're not going to last. But if you really want to work, and I've noticed that I've got some people in my firm that are not that smart, man, but man, are they hard workers. Mm-hmm. And I respect the shit out of that.
So that's like more important to you, obviously, like the work.
So much more important that if you're a hard worker and you've got that great work ethic, you'll do whatever it takes. And I can tell because I can tell of everyone's progress. Right now we're remote. Everyone works from home. Everyone gets a brand new MacBook Pro and a brand new iPhone as soon as they start. And I can track your progress. And the people that are sending me their end of day reports at 7, 8, 9 p.m. every single day and are logging in at 6 a.m. to start working, those are the people that are going to make double or triple what they would make anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so pay more so you can expect more. Find rockstar employees and don't for a second think that you have to have B and C players. I only want A+ players because I'm an A+ dude. Yeah, and I don't want mediocrity around me because that's just going to seep in to my life and I don't want it. I want excellence. My favorite quote is, the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer. Yep. And that's how I run my firm and that's how I run my team.
Boom.
That's it.
Love it. I love it.
So if you want to grow your team, don't go cheap, man. Don't go cheap. If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur.
Right.
Don't hire cheap people. Yeah. Like I know I'm renovating my basement right now. And I've had people tell me, oh man, you can get this done for like 30, 40K to get the entire basement redone. I'm like, well, I know what the cost of lumber is. And I know what the cost of tiles is. And I know what the cost of this and this and this. You're telling me someone's going to come in here and do all this work, for $2,000 in labor. I don't think that's going to be great quality.
Right.
And if someone is only negotiating on price only, then they haven't done a good job of describing value and explaining the value they can bring to you. So I let new employees and even existing employees, I encourage them to ask for more money, but make sure that when you do ask for it, you've earned it. And so that's kind of like the vibe that we get. And man, like, I'm just really thankful for my people. Like I literally pray for my people. And, I'm so happy.
That's an interesting thing that you say right now. It really kind of ties everything into like the beginning of like what we were talking about, like going to the mosque in Georgia and like you pray for your people. I think that's amazing, dude. Like that's,
I try to go to the mosque every morning here, it's a little farther away from my house now, but I still go to the mosque or pray every single day.
You're still doing it. Like even like you've tied your sort of like life story, like tied it all together by there. Yep.
That's it, man. I put them in positions where they can succeed. Yep. And then I put my money where my mouth is. And man, you will never, ever regret having a great employee and paying them well.
Yeah, I 100%. I agree with it. Wow. That's awesome, man. So like today on this episode, what did we leave out? What else do you want to say? Anything else that we could say? How can people get in touch with you? What do you got?
So we left out a lot. I've been alive for 30 years and we talked for an hour,
We've left out a lot, but if you want.
So a couple of things that we left out.
Okay.
I've studied abroad in 5 different countries. So I speak 3 languages fluently, but I also speak 2 or 3 conversationally. I lived in China. I lived in Mexico. I've studied in Turkey. I go and visit family in the Emirates and in the Middle East. I love traveling. I got all these travel hacks. I am a credit expert. I know how to maximize credit. I bought an apartment complex using credit cards while I was in law school. I'm just the kind of guy that loves learning. And if there's one takeaway that I want people to have, because sometimes I just go off on these tangents and it seems like I just keep talking and talking and it doesn't make sense. But it's really just because I can't possibly describe everything to you in just one sitting. Like,
right, it's hard.
Because we tried to cover everything. But the one thing that I will say is just be a lifelong student. Like, be obsessed with learning new things, and don't ever assume that you can't learn things from every single person that you meet. For me, I look for things that I can learn from other people. And I made it this far, realizing a lot of my flaws kept me from growing even more. My biggest flaws were not being as open-minded and kind to other people. And I know that if I was kinder and nicer and just more, open-hearted and open-minded, I would have had much better people come into my life. But look, man, the way I grew up, first time I got ripped off was when I was 19 years old. Someone ripped me off for $25,000 for a wholesale car audio deal. So yeah, I have a problem with trusting people, and it's very hard to get me to buy into you. But when you do, like, you've got me all in, know? And so, I work hard. I love hard. I pray hard. I practice hard. And I think that not doing your full potential is just a disgrace to yourself. Disrespectful to your family, and it's disrespectful to your future generations, because the world deserves the best you, and you really should give it all the time.
The world deserves the best you, and you really should give it all of your time. That's all the time. That's amazing. Yeah. So I want to ask you, like, how you find the best you. I mean, just to see what you say to that, but that's sort of.
So continuous improvement, it doesn't mean that you go and just become an information junkie and just find, go to all these Tony Robbins events and like, hoorah, I want to be excited and motivated. You just have to do. If you see something that you like, just go and do it. Take some action right now and just go and do it. I promise you. I said this on a podcast like a few months ago, and it resonated with me. Like, a lot of people are not going to like what I say, but this is so true. A lot of the things, when you say, oh, I'm working on this, or I'm trying to do this, a lot of those things can be accomplished with 30 minutes to an hour of hardcore work. That's it. A lot of things that you are seeking to accomplish right now, even when you said, hey man, we're trying to build this community, we're trying to do this thing. If you spend an hour pumping out a bunch of high quality emails to the most important people that can get you to that next level, I promise your business is going to be in a completely new place by next year. 1 hour, just dedicate that 1 hour, 1 hour in the gym, 1 hour of meal prepping, 1 hour of reading. That's it. Everything that you possibly want to accomplish can be done with just that initial action. And so the way I find my best me now is I'm reading more, I'm exercising more, I'm learning to be kinder, especially to my wife and my family. And most importantly, my employees, I'm learning to listen. And I think that, once you've built a foundation of education, right? And that you have something just beautiful to offer the world, it really becomes your duty and your moral obligation to share that with as many people as possible. If you don't have anything to share right now, then just give them your time and give them your kindness. Maybe that person is going to reciprocate with some education. And so that's how you do it.
That's awesome, man. Thanks so much. That's great wisdom. Awad, so how can people contact you?
Sure, man. I am the CEO Lawyer on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the social media handles. CEO and lawyer because I'm a boss and because I'm an attorney. So CEO Lawyer on all the social media channels. If you mention Lawyer Stories, if you're listening to this right now and you go on Instagram, you type in CEO Lawyer, you start following me and you message me and you say, hey, I heard you on Lawyer Stories. Can you give me a little bit of feedback on this? Or I love your story. I'd love to pick your brain. I will flag your message and I'll make sure that I personally respond to you if you mention lawyer stories when you hit me up. And, especially lawyers and law students, man, like I take extra time to respond to those people because I know the hustle, I know the grind, and just be prepared. If you ask me a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid answer. But if you want a real response, I'm going to give you good advice and I'm going to tell you the way it works. And if I don't know it, I'll connect you to someone who does.
That's awesome. Awad, man. So psyched to finally get this done, man. Like have our podcast or interview. I know we could talk for like a long time. I really do feel like you and I could talk for a while because I'm really into like, your how you grew up and like how you, because these stories are amazing. Like, you're self-made, you went on, you became an attorney, you have a very successful personal injury firm, and congratulations. Like it's
well,
awesome.
Look, I'm gonna go one step further here. I'm gonna make a prediction.
Okay.
I really feel like speaking things into existence is very important.
Yep.
This year's our first $10 million year. So we finally broke the 8-figure mark. And, my goal next year is to do at least 25 million. And I really feel that before I turn 35, I'm going to have $100 million year. My goal at this time next year is to have 100 employees, 100 member team.
Nice.
And so this time next year, when you hit me up, you're like, yo, what's going on? 100 people or what? I say these things and put them out loud and put them out into the world because I want the world to know I'm trying to bring on more rock stars and more badasses to my team. I need 100. I need a small army, and I'm going to be the general. And, the goal is to become the #1 firm in Georgia and eventually in the country. And I don't just talk it. I have the systems and I have the methodology to get there, and I'm going to do it. So,
well, hey man, I believe in you. Don't forget the little people. That's all I'm saying.
You're not a little person, bro. And you know that. You know that you need someone to be interviewing you.
Yeah, that's true. But don't forget the little people. And dude, it's an absolute pleasure, man. I'm super psyched that we connected, and I think you're definitely going to hit your goals. And we're in December now, and so the new year is a great time to do it. So, Awad, everybody, CEO, lawyer.
Thank you so much, brother. Man, I had a great time. And look, like I said, anyone hits me up, CEO Lawyer on social media, I will do my best to respond to you, especially if you mention lawyer stories. And bro, just thank you so much. And thank you for what you do because you're bringing out stories from all over the world. And, you're really using social media like it was supposed to be used.
I hope
which is bringing out the best in people.
Thanks, man. Hey, everybody out there, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.
The Lawyer Stories podcast is produced by Marketing the Law. Are you looking at your social presence every day? Potential clients are. Learn how to magnetize your brand with the help of Marketing the Law. Find us on Instagram at Marketing the Law to learn more.